getting up in 6 years. And we have gone from a soup kitchen with 2 volunteers to now having 50 volunteers. So I'll tell you a bit more about that soon.
And Jill, would you like
to... Yeah, my name's Jill Butler-Awley. I run the Croft project in Whitthorn, which is part of McCann. And if anyone doesn't know what that is, it's basically a garden that we're looking at sustainable sort of permaculture type methods of gardening, including forest gardening and no-dig gardening. We've been going 2.5 years. We have a very steady core 8 to 10 weekly volunteers. And the reason I'm here today is that we're actually trying to expand that and including different days of the week, etc. So yeah, that's where we are at the moment.
Thank you, Jill. Chris, do you want to speak? Because I see your lips moving. You'll need to unmute. Can you work out how to unmute, Chris? Oh, there's Logan. Oh. Not yet. Well, we'll go around to the next one until you can work out. And if you can't, you could type in the chat. You can work out how to do that, just to say your name and organisation and how many volunteers you're working with. Norval?
Hi, I'm Norval Dampney. I live over in Stranraer and I head up the Incredible Edible Stranraer group. We've been going for about 5 years now. And so our number of volunteers varies from at this time of the year, maybe 5 or 6, to when the better weather's in, we get about 10 or 12 or sometimes more. We've got a lot of outlying volunteers that will bring on seeds from for us and things, but don't actually come to take part in any of the activities of the group, but they help support us right from there. So.
Wonderful.
I'm Maureen Halkett. I'm the chair of KPT Development Trust, which is Keir, Penpoint and Tinrin area in Mid-Nithsdale. And the trust has been running for about 5 years. So we've got a community cafe, community garden, community hydro, various things. But the volunteers mainly in the community cafe and the community garden. And it's just sometimes we maybe expect too much of the volunteers and not give them enough support. That's really why I've come on to actually see what we can do to actually keep them there.
Thanks, Maureen. Leslie, hiya.
I was just typing what I'm doing, what I do. Yeah, hi everyone. I do know some people here. So I coordinate the Galloway Food Hub, which is a project to propagate, and we're based up in St Johnstown of Dalry, and we are a hyper-local online supply chain for local producers to give access to rural communities, to give access to local food to rural communities. And we have about 6 to 8 volunteers that work with us every other Friday to pack the food into people's orders. And we have a pool of about 13, 14 volunteers to draw on, and different people work with us at different times. And originally we were really struggling to get enough volunteers to help us, but now we kind of have almost too many, and I need to put them on a rota system. So I'm kind of looking at how best to manage the volunteers really, and yeah, how to kind of make use of the people that say, yes, I want to work with you, but we can only fit so many people into the room at one time, which is a really nice problem to have. So that's us.
Thanks, Leslie. Brilliant. Chris, you've managed to unmute.
I have. I'm a Zoom virgin.
Congratulations.
And I have a colleague here, Heather, who can't be seen. Heather, and we're from Foodshare in Upper Nithsdale. We've been running since just before COVID, and we share food that is excess, mainly from supermarkets. And we collect it up in Glasgow every Wednesday and we share it in our community. Oh, can you hear all right?
Yeah.
So we share it with the elderly, we share it with anybody who wants to self-refer. We share it with people who are referred from NHS, from the council. We take on, we don't refuse to have anybody. We don't turn anybody away, but it's not a food bank, so we don't get maybe everything that you would need. You sometimes get weird and wonderful things, and we have to deal with that and give people recipes and ideas what to do with it. So that's what we're doing. We also have a warm space on a Monday. We have a check and chat on a Sunday where we take out an afternoon tea to people who don't get out mostly, although we've managed to persuade them out to the Monday warm space. And once a month we take them out shopping in a minibus. So that's about what we're doing at the minute.
Brilliant. Thanks, Chris.
And we're doing that with a core of 8 to 10, 8 to 10 volunteers. And we're relying on a lot of older volunteers, and it can be a bit exhausting. And we're wondering how, in the name of whatever, we get younger volunteers coming to us consistently. So we're struggling sometimes for younger volunteers.
Fantastic. Thanks, Chris. So Emma has introduced herself in the chat. She says, "Hi, I'm Emma, the project officer for Branching Out, which is an outdoor activity programme run by DG Owl, which is Dumfries and Galloway Outdoor Woodland Learning Group, which is for adults who are accessing mental health." Sorry, I'm turning my phone off so you don't hear it beeping. Accessing mental health services or alcohol and drug services. Oh, and it's disappeared. I'm having a technology moment now. Oh, there we are. We don't currently have a volunteer programme, but we're looking at opportunities for our participants and previous participants to come back to the programme as a volunteer. So if they want to set up policies, I know that because I work with Emma wearing a different hat. It says, "Emma, where are you based?" East of me. I'm in Gatehouse, by the way. Okay, great. So just a few things. If you're going to be speaking, turn your phone on airplane mode. I just did it. Sorry. It's making a lot of noise. And yeah, now you know how to mute and unmute. So do that. Of course, we want to have respectful and inclusive language. And what might be really useful is for you to think about what you'd like to get out of the webinar, and that can just help you to just focus your mind. So you might think about that for a moment now. And also do write down any questions that you have. Yeah, and you can put that into the chat, hopefully, in due course. But you can just write them down on a piece of paper and then unmute and ask them at the end. So the basic format is that Hazel's going to talk for a bit first, and then we were going to have Claire Brown from Third Sector, but she's unable to attend due to unexpected staff absences, and so I'm going to read out her slides, but I've got a good idea, and yeah, I'll share what she was going to share for you. So it's the Third Sector's presentation that I'll be sharing, and then there'll be time for more questions and discussions at the end. Okay, shall I hand over to you? I just saw there was something in the chat there. But yeah. Okay. Okay, I'll hand over to you, Hazel.
Okay, can everybody hear me? First of all, yeah, good stuff. I'm kind of a virgin as well with Zoom, Chris, so just bear with me. So, and you're Upper Nisdale. I was interested to hear that because I'm originally from Upper Nisdale.
Oh,
So,
right.
are you based in Kirkconnell?
We are. We're in the
Yes.
old doctor's.
The old doctor surgery in Kirkconnell. That's amazing. And you've been going on since COVID time.
Yeah, we started off down at the miners, and
All right. Oh, yes.
they wanted their place back.
Yeah.
We've
And-
taken this.
Right, I see. Because Action for Children is still there, aren't they, in
Yep,
Kirkconnell?
yep, they're just
Yeah, yeah. And another member here, Maureen, I remember
Yeah.
Maureen being with Action for Children many moons ago, but
Ma-
that's- yeah,
many moons ago,
yeah, but there's
94, I think it was.
really. But you know,
yeah.
Upper Nisdale is a good wee community, and there's always a lot of
Exactly.
good work going on up there. So fantastic.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Well
I'm here to talk about Kate's Kitchen. So what I'm going to do is just do an overview of what Kate's Kitchen is, where we are, what we do, who we support, just to give you an idea. Have they all heard of Kate's Kitchen?
Yep.
Yes, that's good. So I'll give you an overview of what it is we actually do, and then move into how many, give you some stats as to the number of people that we're providing support for, and then move into the volunteer roles. We've got a number of volunteer roles that people can take up, and how we get people to apply. So the recruitment, selection, and maintaining the volunteers, and ensuring that they're happy volunteering with us. So that's the plan for my presentation. If anybody's got any questions at any time, just, I don't know how Zoom works, but if you stick your hand up and ask the question, I can answer, or leave it to the end and then I can answer them all. So here we go. So we're based in Annan. We're in Annan High Street now. And in 2008, a woman called Catherine Dale was a member of Annan Old Church and felt there was a need for a soup kitchen. So she could see that poverty was coming, she could see it in Annan, and just felt there was maybe some homelessness, drug and alcohol issues, and felt that they needed a place to come, have a listening ear and a bowl of soup. And that was how it was set up in 2008. 2 volunteers, and in a church hall, posters out, and that's how it started. And fast forward to now, we now have 10 staff, 50 volunteers, and we're now in the High Street in Annan. It used to be, if anybody knows Annan, it was the Royal Bank of Scotland. And we moved in here in 2019, November, with great expectations of what we were going to do. Now we were in the High Street, we were going to open a charity shop. We thought it would remove a bit of stigma as well, because at that time there was a bit of stigma about Kate's Kitchen. They either loved it or they loathed it, and it sounds awful, but there was some people that thought people that came into Kate's Kitchen were scroungers, and that's putting it mildly. That was what the stigma we had. So we've tried to dispel that myth over the years, and getting onto the High Street has really helped that, because we're there, people can pop in and see the good work that we're doing. So that's a good thing that we have moved. We went from the church hall to Bank Street, which was round the corner. Again, it wasn't huge premises and stigma still was there. And we moved to the High Street in 2019. It's just amazing how it's grew arms and legs, and all the services that we can provide now. So we have 10 staff, 3 support workers, a cook, myself as manager, an admin stroke bookkeeper, a volunteer coordinator, and that is a brilliant thing to have. So once you reach maybe 15 volunteers, you're maybe then thinking, oh, we need to employ a volunteer coordinator, because I used to do it myself, but as I say, we've grew arms and legs, and if you've got a designated coordinator that can do that job, it just takes the pressure off, which is brilliant. We got funding through the Volunteer Support Fund 3 years ago, and it's impact funding that they monitor that fund. However, it ends in March next month. So we got it 3 years ago for 3 years. It was Scottish Government that put the funding in because they recognised the volunteer input, but now they've pulled it end of March. There's going to be no more funding. So all these projects that have started up, put their volunteer coordinators in post, a lot of them have been given notice already, which is really sad. But as you all know, I'm sure, it's the way the funding is at the moment. We are lucky enough to have enough in our budget to reduce our coordinators' hours by, I think it's four hours a week, but we're still able to keep her. So she'll go from 16 hours a week to 12 hours a week. It's still, we're losing 4 hours, but we'll still have her in place and she'll still be able to take that burden, you know, of looking after the volunteer. I don't mean a burden, I just mean she'll be able to keep that, doing that role. So that's really good. We've also got a cleaner, we've got a garden coordinator, we've got an arts and crafts coordinator, a wellbeing facilitator, and that's the 10 staff. So we've got all these staff and we see ourselves as a community food hub. We're open 4 days a week from Tuesday to Friday, 10 o'clock till 2 o'clock for customers to come in. What we deliver is a breakfast and lunch club, so they can come in at 10 o'clock and have tea and toast. We ask 50 pence for a cup of tea and toast, and then they get a free lunch, a 2-course hot lunch at 12 o'clock. And that's your Tuesday till Friday. Our wellness group meets just now, 10:30 on a Wednesday morning, and that is for people that are suffering mental health issues or have in the past, and they put together a plan, wellness recovery action plan. We have a facilitator who takes them through how to produce their own plan to keep them healthy, keep their mental health well if they ever get a trigger in the future. So that's on a Wednesday morning. We have a gardening group on the Wednesday morning, and I'm sure a lot of you are really interested in that. We had a huge big car park out the back, and we've made that into a big garden with 2 polytunnels, a porta cabin, a lot of raised beds. It's just amazing. It really is. And our garden coordinator has expertise in horticulture. She also runs our arts and crafts on a Friday. And again, it's a different activity every Friday. So they choose what they want to do. They've done things like, oh gosh, mosaics, they've done glass blowing, they do big sculptures. It's just amazing the things that they come up with, and it's a different one every week. So everybody that comes on a Friday must take part in the activity. So it's purely arts and crafts, and a lunch. We have a walking group on a Thursday morning and a yoga group on a Thursday afternoon. We provide food parcels. So our 3 support workers, anybody, we take referrals from different organisations such as Richmond Fellowship, Key Housing, social work for people that are maybe needing a food parcel, and that's fine. They've already been assessed, so we'll give them a food parcel. If we get self-referrals in, our support workers will have a chat with them, find out what's going on, do they need support with anything else? It might be that they're not getting all their benefits, so they would help them with that, but they would get their food parcel. So everything that we do is assessed. They don't just dish out food parcels willy-nilly. They must be assessed for need. We also, just in November 2021, when the cost of living crisis sort of initiated, we felt there was a need. There was people coming in that was working, so it was in work poverty, and asking if we could help. And they had a lot of them have a bit of pride and they want to give something. So we set the project up. We call it the Affordable Food Shop. And it's a shop with all different products, ambient foods, frozen foods, fresh fruit and veg. We get them from Aldi on a Tuesday and a Thursday morning. So that's their surplus food from Aldi. And so that goes into your affordable food. We take £5 for 15 items of food. Might be something you might want to think about in Upper Nisdale, I don't know, but it's a better quality food than what's in the food parcels, and people can pick, as I say, 15 items for £5. So it's done really well. We've got 97 members at the moment. They don't shop every week, but they come and they go. But we raise about £150 a week from that shop. So it's worth thinking, and it's helping us towards sustainability, being able to bring in that funding. We also do support with benefits, housing advice, any other issues. Everybody's welcome in Kate's Kitchen. We never turn anybody away, and we'll have a conversation to find out what the problem is. And if we can help, then we'll help. Our support workers will do that. If we can't, then we would signpost them onto Citizens Advice Service, and we work quite closely with them. We've got a lot of mutual clients. We also work in partnership with the DWP, the Job Centre. So we provide training, IT courses, food hygiene courses, and again, we get referrals from Job Centre if anybody wants to take up these opportunities. We've got pop-up Kate's Kitchen in Langham, alternative Thursdays, and alternative Wednesdays in Lockerbie. And Edith's just away to Lockerbie today to do the pop-up in the town hall. So again, it's just the very same as what we do here. If anybody needs support, fine. If they need food parcels, they can phone and let us know, and we give out food parcels. We sometimes do activities like baking, and it's a social thing. A lot of people come to Kate's Kitchen, it's not just for the food, it's the social isolation that they're experiencing. And in particular, since COVID, our numbers have increased. So we support about 200 people in a year coming through for support, food, and joining our groups. Volunteering training opportunities. So that is a huge part of what we do in Kate's Kitchen, because a lot of the people that come in are service users, maybe low confidence, no family members, wanting to meet up with like-minded people, and they do that. They grow in confidence, they then want to give something back, so they would become volunteers. And we've actually got one who is now our cleaner. So this is how it works, and this is how we see the progression. And our aim at Kate's Kitchen is our key aim is to reduce social isolation and provide support through empowerment, enabling clients to move on, taking control of their own lives. And our vision is to alleviate isolation, poverty, their causes and consequences within our community, and in so doing, recognise the value of every individual. People with support. So we do an evaluation every year, and the evidence showed that 79% of our clients had physical or mental health, 79% had experienced homelessness, 71% isolation, 64% debt, 57% food insecurity, 50% benefits issues, 29% income security, and only 7% with drug or alcohol issues. So there kind of dispels the myth that it's a lot of people, scroungers, that are coming in here, you know. Our 2023 stats showed that we distributed 602 food parcels, benefiting 683 adults and 163 children. We delivered 319 support sessions. We had 144 new referrals. And our volunteer hours, so of all the volunteers that we have, 3,657 hours was given volunteering in Annan. We had 63 hours in Lockerbie. I think there's one volunteer that it's remembering it's once a fortnight. So we do have a volunteer in Lockerbie. Langham, it seems to be difficult to recruit over in Langham for some reason, and we've only got 16 hours volunteer hours in Langham. But we continue to look for volunteers, but we still go over there once a fortnight and deliver the services. So that kind of leads us nicely to the volunteer process. I hope I'm not talking too much. Let me know if I am. So our volunteer roles. We also opened a charity shop. In actual fact, the charity shop is a year today. And we've got celebrations. It's in the high street across the road. And we've got our balloons and banners up today. And we're doing buy one, get one, half price. So we opened the charity shop a year ago. So we've got volunteer roles in the shop. And at the moment, we've got 14 volunteers in our charity shop. And they're on a rota system. Now, somebody mentioned they were looking how to do a rota. So that might be something that we can help with. Arts and crafts volunteers, and we take them in to support Sue, our facilitator, in delivering the sessions and making the refreshments. Gardening volunteer for any of our service users that are interested in learning more about actual horticulture and working in the garden, and Sue supports them in doing that. Kitchen assistant, that's the main one I would say, is the kitchen assistant, because there's a lot of work. We're cooking meals every day in here, and we need a lot of kitchen assistants. And befrienders, which is a really good one as well. And the befrienders is basically, we have a couple in the day area from 10 o'clock to 2. So if they see somebody coming in that's new, it's a new face, they would go and make them feel welcome. Everybody does, but they would be the befriender in name, would be able to support them and introduce them to other people. So how do we recruit our volunteers? We've got role descriptions for absolutely every, I don't know if you can see that, but we've got role descriptions for all our volunteers. So the charity shop volunteer, so that covers the role, the purpose, the skills required, if any, the benefits that they would get from becoming a volunteer, the key tasks, experience required, if any experience is required, and any special requirements. So, so for instance, we've put Friday Arts and Craft volunteer assistant, key tasks, assisting participants in a friendly, non-judgmental manner, assisting with preparation of the session, serving tea, coffee, juice and water, preparing where needed and serving lunch, and assisting in keeping the kitchen and dining room clean. So it's what you make it, it's what you're looking for, you just put it in the job description. And that gives people a right idea of exactly what it is you're looking for. And then there's no, you know, it's straightforward. So that's volunteer gardening, club assistant, kitchen assistant, key tasks, serving tea, coffee, juice and water, preparing where needed and serving lunch, assisting in keeping the kitchen and dining room clean. And for experience, it says no experience is necessary, full training will be provided. And anybody that comes in to volunteer as a kitchen assistant, if they're front of house, not wishing to be in the kitchen, we put them through their level 1 food hygiene certificate. And if they want to work in the kitchen with the cook, they would do their level 2 food hygiene. And that is the basis of, that's the basic qualification that's needed to work in a commercial kitchen. So that is the job descriptions, and that's what they cover. So they go out to anybody that's interested. Volunteers come via themselves. They can walk in and say, I want to do a bit of volunteering. We get work experience from schools as well, and from Annan Academy and Lockerbie Academy. We take in maybe people that are not academically minded, but are looking for tasters of different aspects of getting into work. So we take them, and we're not the lead. We make sure that somebody from the school takes the lead in looking after them, but we have an induction and a review, and they're monitored regularly. And so we build up a relationship with the schools, and it really helps to know that our relationship with partners getting out and about and being seen as being one of the places that they can send people for work experience. A lot of our volunteers are elderly people that maybe just want to give something back. They're retired, they're looking for some sort of volunteer job, and they come. And some are looking to find work in the hospitality industry, so they would come and get a taster. And that happened, I think one year we had 6 volunteers who actually found employment. So coming, getting the volunteer experience, getting through their food hygiene, it's a good basis for finding employment in that industry. We then have our volunteer application form. So once we've had a chat with the potential volunteer, we would give them a volunteer application form, which is 3 pages long, and basically asks for contact details, employment history, reasons for volunteering, any relevant experience, where they heard about us, 2 referees, and if they've got anything to disclose. So we would give them away, they would take them away, they would bring them back. We would then take up the references, and if everything was fine, then they would be invited in for an induction meeting to walk around the premises, meet everybody here, volunteers and staff, and agree when they wanted to work, what was suitable for them. And that meeting would take place within 2 weeks of having the volunteer application and the references. So once we've got the references that are okay, we then give 2 weeks to make sure we've had that person back in and had their induction. And that is so that they don't lose interest, because there's a lot of organisations out there that are looking for volunteers, and we're all looking for potentially the same volunteers. And if you're going to leave them for 3 months, they've moved on and went somewhere else. So if you put a time limit on that, it really helps. So that's that. At that induction meeting, we walk them round, we show them the food bank, the pantry, the kitchen, they meet the cook, volunteers that are already there. We go through our volunteer welcome booklet. That's our volunteer welcome booklet. So in that, these are it's paperwork that I can email to anybody that's wanting it, and it could be adapted probably for your own. So basically it's welcome into Kate's Kitchen. It's a brief background, what our volunteering opportunities are and what to expect. That's that one. And then we have our volunteering work experience guidelines. That's a bit thicker. And this was taken from our policies and procedures. Oh, I've went purple. For some reason, I've gone purple.
No idea why you went purple.
No idea, it doesn't matter.
Purple really suits you.
Oh, thank you. So yeah, this booklet was taken from our policies, but obviously with volunteers, you don't want them to have make it too onerous for them. And it's just some bedside reading for them, basically, to have a look. So welcome, about Kate's Kitchen, induction. And our induction says, once a successful candidate has been accepted to a volunteer or work experience role, induction programs should be agreed with the volunteer coordinator and completed within 2 weeks. All new volunteers and work experience students will be issued with this document on their first day. Inductions may vary according to the nature of the role, but will be completed within the first 2 weeks, including introduction to myself. So that's basically saying what it is we're going to do and the benefits they're going to get. Welfare, support and advice, dignity at work, all that type of thing we've got in here. Equal opportunities, data protection, paid employment, so that we can offer paid employment as well, and references. So there's quite a lot in that booklet, but as I say, they can take it away and read it as and when. So that's that one. So once we've agreed a start date, they would then sign the volunteer agreement. Yes, we've got a lot of, it's not a lot of paperwork, it's just really 3 documents, but we've got the volunteer agreement, and if they're happy with their induction, they're signing to say, Kate's Kitchen agrees to, and it's things like provide adequate information and assistance for the volunteers to be able to meet their duties, provide an induction, access to the constitution, policies and procedures of Kate's Kitchen, and the volunteer agrees to volunteer at days and times agreed, to telephone if unable to attend, comply with the policies and procedures, respect confidentiality. So it's things that you would just expect to be on a volunteer agreement. So depending on who the volunteer is and what sort of, where they're at, it might well be that if it's a work experience from school, we would buddy them up with a buddy. So we have buddies as well. So an experienced volunteer would buddy up the work experience person. And that would just mean that they would show them in the morning what was, the volunteer coordinator goes up to the kitchen and makes sure we've got enough volunteers, issues them with their tasks for that day. And if somebody's needing a buddy, then they would be identified who that buddy would be. So we feel that everybody up there has got the confidence to know exactly what they're doing. So incentives. So in order to maintain your volunteers, they have to be getting something out of it, obviously. And we try and keep this process professional with all this paperwork to begin with, but it's all about encouraging, supportive, praise when it's due, buddying up with other volunteers who have been through the same thing and can relate to where that new volunteer is at the moment. Rewards, we give out rewards. We have a reward system whereby once that a volunteer has reached 60 hours of volunteering, they're issued with a gift voucher for £10 to spend in our charity shop. That's a gift voucher. I don't know if you can see it, but they get this gift voucher and it's £10 and they can take that over to a shop and spend it. And a few of them have had maybe 2 or 3 of them, you know, as soon as they reach the next 60 hours, they'll get another £10 to spend. So it is, and they appreciate that. Volunteer certificate presentation. So Volunteers Week's the first week in June every year. So we always do a celebration of our volunteers then. And we either take them out for lunch or do some sort of presentation with a lunch in Kate's Kitchen. Certificates, yeah, we have certificates. There's our certificates. So just producing something like that and having a presentation at Christmas time or in June, whenever, it makes them feel, oh, I'm appreciated, I feel valued, that they're getting something back. And that's what it's all about, basically. We do an annual evaluation of all our services, and we include input from the volunteers. So volunteers are all issued with a questionnaire. How long have you been volunteering? What do you get out of volunteering? Have you found a job? Are you looking for all different aspects of, and just to get their input into our annual evaluation. And it makes them feel that they are valued, and they are valued, because we need that input from our volunteers to say, you're doing it right or you're doing it wrong, or can we suggest this? And we'll take on suggestions from volunteers. And if it works, for instance, that really hot summer we had 2 years ago, whenever it was, they wear hats and it was really hot in the kitchen. So a volunteer suggested hairnets. So we did away with the baseball caps and we bought them hairnets, and they're now wearing hairnets all the time. And that was better for them, you know, because it was too hot with the baseball caps. So Have I got anything else to say?
Brilliant, Hazel. Thank you.
I'm kind of talking too long, haven't I? So I'll take any questions.
Longer, but yeah, we have this other presentation which will probably be about 20.
Oh, yes, sorry.
I'm seeing Maureen's hand up, so should we just
Right. I just want to check whether do you do the police check with the volunteers?
We don't need to do a PVG. No, I should have
Right.
mentioned that. Because they're never on their own with service users. There's
Good,
always a staff member along with the volunteers, never on their own. So we don't need to do police checks.
Right.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. Okay, what? Thank you. Well done, Hazel.
Thank you. Yeah. Cheers.
So what we'll do is I'll just show you oh, where's it gone? I'll show you this other presentation because I think it's really useful. And it's looking funny. There we go. Wondering if you can see that.
Can't see that.
It's coming.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, that's not supposed to be looking like that. I don't know. It was all working just a second ago. So as I said, this is a presentation from Third Sector. And I'm gonna it's not, it was working a second ago and I don't see why it's not working. Oh, now it is. Right. But you're not seeing it now, are you? Okay. Now are you seeing it?
Yes.
Excellent. Right. Sorry, technical moment. So the aim of this is to enable organisations that involve volunteers to consider how you recruit volunteers and what you need to have in place in order to do so. So we'll be looking at understanding the definition of volunteering, different types of volunteering, why people volunteer. Yeah, so we'll run through these quite quickly, looking at policies and procedures, which obviously Hazel's already talked about, some brilliant examples, and some different roles and role descriptions, and different methods of recruitment. We can have a wee chat about that, and how to make it as inclusive as possible is the last main point. So remember, volunteering is a choice. It's a choice to give time or energy to undertake of one's own free will. And it's a choice not motivated for financial gain or for a wage or salary. So that's really important when you're thinking about how you're recruiting as well. So it's not free and it's not a replacement for paid staff. And I think Hazel outlined that really well. So it can be grouped into sort of 3 different types of volunteering. So neighbourliness, for example, if you cut your neighbour's grass or you put their bins in and out or you walk their dog and they do their shopping, and that's lending a hand to a friend or neighbour, and it might be frequent or infrequent, but there's no formal agreement and it's just done out of the goodness of your heart. The second one there is informal, so maybe there's a coffee morning, you do some baking for that, or you donate clothes to a charity shop. So it's infrequent and it's in response to a particular need. And the third type here is formal, which is, you know, those ones where Hazel's talking about there. So assistant in a charity show, coaching for a youth team or a befriender. Yeah, so it's usually with a regular time commitment and an agreement in place. So we'll be talking now about this formal volunteering. So why would you need to recruit volunteers? Any thoughts on that?
How do you say that without saying that you need them to replace the work that staff would do? Because it's a very thin line, and we do need volunteers to help with things that ideally would be done by paid staff. It's a difficult situation, and it's one that we've had a bit of crossover in, and a bit of, you know, we've taken on a cleaner, but there was a bit of bad feeling about who got that job and why they got that job and all that. So we could do with proper formal procedures in place. It was just out of a need for someone to do that work. Otherwise, I've got the one hat on and I'm doing, you know, volunteer coordinator, food coordinator, delivery driver, you name it. It comes from this person, and we now have a second member of staff and very good volunteers who step in if I need a holiday, etc. So it's really difficult to formalise that whole thing when you're the only person wearing the hat.
Yeah. So I guess
We get
the main
support
thing
from,
here are sort of that you're needing more people, isn't it, Chris?
yeah, yeah.
And helping with specific tasks that are maybe more easily delegatable.
Yeah,
Things
we get some help from the trust. So the trust have some people that help us with grant applications and all that, thank God. So, and our finances are looked after by an accountant, which is and isn't a good process to go through. It makes us stop doing things because we don't know how much money we've got, etc. And that's an issue for the trust. I would be interested to hear from the other trust person how they deal with that. But yeah, it's
important.
great.
It's important to have people with having good governance is a really important part of that. And so having somebody who can volunteer, you know, who can have the treasurer role, whether that's an accountant or not, is definitely a really good practice. And to have someone external double checking everything, because even with the best will in the world, you know, you sometimes make mistakes. And I think having those people who can help with specific tasks is really important.
Yeah.
Yeah, so these other things is here, I think there's things popping up on the screen that you've already sort of covered there, Chris. Succession planning is another one. So you're thinking, right, what into the future? You know, if we run out of funding, how are we going to make sure that we can keep providing services?
Yeah.
Government as well. And it's a great sign of success as well. So why do volunteer? This is really important for you to think about. In terms of recruiting and keeping volunteers, you've got to get into the mindset of why someone might volunteer. So it might be because they want to support their community or family and friends and give something back, which Hazel said that's some of the reasons people are doing it. That isolation, this social isolation, which is massive. So volunteering is a great opportunity to meet new people and make new friends and feel like you're part of something and feel like you're contributing. Can also enhance job opportunities. So that when you were saying about like younger people, Chris, you don't have that's where they're maybe wanting better job opportunities. So that focus on, right, okay, so we want younger people who, what are they needing? They're maybe thinking, right, I'll gain skills, I'll gain experience, I'll get references, so to get me into work. So that's really important, whether within the organization or you know, just having that reference, and that you know, the fact that you can show up and attend, you know, certainly speaking to the biggest biggest business in Gatehouse, big problem for employers is young people just don't show up when they're supposed to, you know, even just showing up at the time. So even just proving that they can do that through volunteering is puts them streets ahead of other applicants.
Yeah.
Learning new skills, of course. Like you said, you're putting people through certificates and programs so that they've got those skills and they can look at new employers and say that. And these awards that you could get, so that could be helpful for you thinking about, well, what awards could they get? Is there like Duke of Edinburgh Awards, or the Saltire Awards are great as well. So other youth awards can really help to think, right, how we get the younger people in particular. So before you start recruiting, you need some things in place. So you need a policy in place. You need other relevant policies, so health and safety policies, recruitment policies, confidentiality policies. You need insurance, so making sure that your organisation would be insured for anything that might go wrong. Recruitment process. So those things that Hazel talked about, that's our process. But if you've worked out what your process is, you need the relevant paperwork that Hazel talked about: role descriptions, volunteer agreements, and the support structure. So who's going to be actually like looking after them? Who's going to be their go-to person, that volunteer coordinator? And as you raised there, Maureen, a PVG or disclosure, which is only necessary if people will be working with people that are vulnerable, children and adults that are vulnerable. And third sector can help organisations with these different paperwork as well. So what volunteers, I'm just rattling through this quite quickly because we've just got 5 minutes left and we've got 22 slides. So what will your volunteers do? So to get the best out of volunteers, it's important that they understand their role. So that role description and person specification, which Hazel went through, is really important. And that just gives you clarity, gives your organisation clarity, the line manager or volunteer coordinator, role clarity, and the person who's a volunteer, real clarity. And it's one of those things you need to do expect them only to do what's written there and not more, just to make that really clear. So this is what's written down there, and this slide is what Hazel already outlined as things that you would want to have in your role description. So you have a role description and you have a person specification as well. Relevant information like the dress code, and then the person specification that outlines the characteristics required for the appropriate person. So just, what experiences and what kind of person are you looking for. So there's lots of different ways how you could recruit. How do you actually recruit? So one is word of mouth. So it might just be, chatting to people. Oh, could you join? Like Emma mentioned there, people that have already done a program, and then they could stay on and volunteer. It could be a former volunteers recommended them. They could have been volunteering before and they join in. What you could do is have an event, so an open night or a bring a friend scheme, information sessions, a come and try or taster sessions. Presentations, you could go to other people's events and give presentations and say we're looking for volunteers. You could put an advert in a local newspaper or have a stall at local events. Posters and leaflets can be really effective. It's not all social media, we do bits of paper still. And websites are really helpful. Recruitment fairs and volunteer fairs, name generation activities, just to get people involved and activated. And local businesses might support. So some businesses actually, will have paid staff go and volunteer in their paid staff time, but they volunteer somewhere else. And that can be a nice way of involving the wider community in different target groups, different groups of people. Or it could just be in your email list. So key point is to make adverts exciting and interesting when you are advertising. So how do you make it focus on the task and what the volunteers will get out of it? This is some examples of good and bad adverts. So we want to make the adverts exciting and interesting. What one do you think would be the best one? 1, 2, 3, or 4? Can you read that? So the first one is, as part of a committed team, you would have an active role in raising the profile of our charity as well as providing excellent customer service. This has many elements that would enhance any existing skills as well as providing an opportunity to learn new ones. What do you think? Is that a good one?
I think the green one, the next one's quite good because it's short and snappy and it says what it does.
Yeah, it says what it does on the tin.
Yeah.
Anyone
Number
else?
4, I quite like number 4.
I like number 4 as well.
more chatty.
Yeah.
And positive.
But it depends on, as I say, people might just think they want to volunteer. So as Chris was saying, that the short and snappy one, it gets them in, and then you can actually build on the rest once you've got them there. But it's difficult to know.
You might also have people with some literacy difficulties, dyslexia and other things, and so having too many words on something is very off-putting for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Something very short and snappy, I think, is really important. It's very succinct.
And it's quite hard to read. Number 4 on the blue.
Yeah. So the color is important. So making it so you can actually read it. Is the font good for people that are dyslexic? I like number 4 because it says, could you be the face of your local charity? So it's speaking to the person. So they're sort of, whereas to raise money for the charity and raise awareness of the disease is speaking from the organization's point of view, but from the volunteer's point of view, the reason that they want to do it is to gain cashier and sales experience in a friendly environment. So this is what you're getting out of it. So that's what I like about number 4. It thinks it's playing to what they'll get out of it. A bit more, speaking to that. Yeah, there's pros and cons of the different ones.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm hoping you're all right to continue. We're still got a few slides left. The next one is about the recruitment process. The first thing you need to do is decide that you need to recruit some volunteers. You need to agree the process, ensure the policies are in place. Then you advertise. And you could have a rolling program, or you could have a closing date for applications. So, please apply by this date, like you would a job. And actually treating volunteers as employees is really important in the sense that, you're giving them a role description, you're being really clear what your expectations are. There's policies in place. If there's anything goes wrong, then you have the same systems in place. You have a verbal warning, a written warning, you have all these things in place so that you can be, be really clear and respectful. So you advertise, then you invite applications in, then you would meet them. So I think having a chat, even if it's an informal chat, or if it's more like interviews, depending on what you want to do. Then you would select, would decide whether or not, if you've got a number to choose from, then you select 1 or 3, however many you want. And taking up references is important as well. And then the appropriate paperwork and induction is so important, as Hazel mentioned there. So some paperwork, the volunteer registration form, the references, PVG or disclosure only if it's necessary. Risk assessments need to be in place as well. And the volunteer agreement. So I was planning to have a chat about what the barriers to volunteering might be, what you think the barriers might be, but maybe it's useful for me just to sort of go through this in a more quick way. So I think, again, thinking, are you able to see that? Are you seeing something, a Word document that says barriers to volunteering?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the reasons might be that nobody asked them. So like people don't always know that your organization is looking for volunteers. So making sure that that's really clear somewhere be really, really good. So making sure that message is out there. Another is that they've spoken to people who volunteer and they just moan about it. So that's an interesting one. So it's really important that you make sure that people are having a positive experience so that they can be an ambassador for volunteering and speak positively and passionately and enthusiastically.
that woman who goes to the affordable food shop, the really rude one. She's
I'll just mute that one. If it doesn't look like fun, then yeah, have people come in and do a trial day. Some people just feel that they don't have time and try to be flexible with that. So explain different ways that people can help. Work with them to identify ways that they can help. Maybe they can help in the evening when the kids are in bed, you know, just working at the computer, you know, so it's so you can match different people to their different available time slots. Some people feel that they're not needed, so you could explain how they could be needed, and also maybe they feel they don't have the skills to help, so finding out what skills they do have and sharing how they could be taught new skills, how you would put them through courses, giving them a really good induction. So trying to break down any of the invisible barriers. So another one could be, I don't understand your organisation. So if you could dispel some of the myths and really explain how the organisation works. Another is someone thinks that they're maybe too young or too old. So again, that's where you can explain what age someone could volunteer for your organisation. Some people feel that they don't know anybody. And yeah, that can be a big barrier if people are feeling shy. So there, that befriending and buddying, meeting and greeting can be really helpful. Some people can't afford it, and so then again, you can say their expenses will be paid. Maybe what will you give them in exchange for their work? Maybe you give them a free meal, for example, free travel. Explain that they don't need any specific clothing or that you provide it. Not everything needs a PVD, which we mentioned already. Other people would say that they're not fit enough. So you know, you could say, well, these are different roles that the person could take. Another important point is about inclusive volunteering. So wherever possible, we want volunteering to be inclusive to everybody. Chris already mentioned ages, you know, making sure that people of different genders, abilities and disabilities, whether they're physical or mental health or learning. And yeah, is there anyone representative of your community that you can involve? And making sure that your communication is really clear and simple as well. And focusing on the benefits. So yeah, these are the things we've focused on. Now it's really helpful for you to move forward, create an action plan for your recruitment process, think about what documents you need, and then recruit. And then thinking about already at the beginning, you can think about how are you going to keep your volunteers. There's on screen there, hopefully, you can see Katerina Stone is a volunteering officer at 3rd Sector, Dumfries and Galloway. And yeah, she can get back to you with, if you want examples of role descriptions or anything like that. I can email out the examples of the role description and person specification and the overcoming barriers documents that they've sent us as well. So sorry we went on a bit long, and it's nice that some of you are still here. that was the main things we wanted to cover in that. Does anyone have any questions?
It just seems to me there's more barriers to starting than there are to get going, if you know what I mean. We've got about 10 volunteers and we've got policies in place and all of that, but we don't have agreements, and just because I haven't had time to sit down and do them. So I don't know where to start.
Chris, if you want, I can email over to you our volunteer agreement. You can get a look at it, and it just be a case of adapting it for yourselves.
That would be great.
Any paperwork that you feel you need. Application form. Do you have an application form?
Yeah, we do have an application form, but it's only one page. It's not very.
What if I send over to you the paperwork we've got?
Mhm.
The volunteer booklet is quite thick and it's more taken from our policies and procedures. So initially you probably just need a volunteer application form, a volunteer agreement, and we do reviews regularly, so maybe a support and supervision form kind of thing as well. You know, but I'll send.
I think I'll work on having an advert in the place that says we're looking for volunteers and make that clear. That's a big tip.
Yes.
And we're missing a trick there. So if we can do that, that would be great.
Do you have a Facebook page?
We have a Facebook page, yeah.
Advertise it on your Facebook page that you're looking for volunteers, because it's amazing the number of people that, you know, that'll hit. I'm sure there's plenty of people up there that will be looking to do a bit of volunteering. Yeah, put it in your Facebook regularly. Yeah. What's your email address?
It's chris@kkdt.org.
KKDT.
Hazel, if you can send them all to me, I'll send them to everyone who came.
Yeah, I'd like a copy, please. It sounds really good, Hazel. It's kind of like the next level up, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. No worries. Right. Okay, I'll do that. I'll send it all over to you.
Thank you.
Helpful for everybody, even the people who didn't show up, who registered. You know, might find. Well, I'll send it.
That's fine. Okay.
That would be great. Thanks, Hazel. That would be really, really helpful.
Now I'll be down to check out Kate's kitchen at some point.
Oh, you need to come. You definitely need to
Definitely,
come and see it. Yeah, I think you'll be amazed. Most people are. And the funny thing is, everybody that comes in will always come and say to me, what a great vibe. As soon as they walk in that door, they get that vibe that it's a happy place and there's a lot going on. So come and experience it. Everybody's welcome.
That's great.
Can I ask just one quick question, Hazel?
Yeah.
Do you know what happens if your volunteers don't show up or they cancel last minute? Is that something in your policy then?
It is, yeah. They've got to phone. They must phone and let us know if they're unable to attend. And they generally do. Obviously, on occasion, you'll get one that'll just not turn in. But that would be then brought up with the volunteer coordinator. Or you never phoned. Was there a reason? Might be they've got no credit in their phone. And in that case, then there's not a lot you can do about it. But we have that in our policy that they must phone in and let us know if they can't come.
What happens, Hazel? Say someone doesn't phone in and 3 times they cancel and they don't phone in. You know, what's that sort of process?
Well, that would never happen because it would be brought up with them right away to say, you know, you need to let us know, because we're relying on these volunteers coming in. You know, we could maybe have 6 volunteers and we'll need that 6 on that particular day. And if 2 of them don't turn up, we're snookered.
Yeah, I had that happen to me once and it was really stressful.
Oh, it is. Yeah, sometimes a volunteer coordinator has to step in and make the teas and coffees. That's what it comes down to. But so because of that, we don't want that to happen again. So the coordinator brings it up with them regularly. I should never mention, but they have regular volunteer meetings. So once a month they'll meet and anything like that will be brought up. And at the review meetings with the volunteer. I think you treat them like employees, to be honest, and that's the way they want it. They're given to you and you have to give back, but you know, there is rules in place and they need to abide by the rules. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
You would just say, I mean, if someone did that 3 times and you've said to them, you know, then you just have to say, well, we just can't rely on you anymore.
Definitely. Yep.
Yeah. Which because it's an organization that's being upheld, and that's important.
Yeah.
Hopefully it won't happen though.
No.
That's our food share being delivered, so
I need to go to another meeting.
Okay.
Thanks for organising. Nice to meet you.
Lovely to meet you all.
Good luck, everyone, with your volunteers.
Bye.
Bye.
Good morning. How's you? Good.